Well, that's something that'll make your tummy feel good. But Brian, I understand that you've got some information that might give some people a sick stomach on some of the information that's come out. We talked about this in the past when AEW had filed some kind of document that indicated that they were paying talent. What did we figure? $100 million a year or whatever. Now there's something else that's come out. Doesn't amount to that, but it's legal proceedings. So can you fill us in, being the legal correspondent, of what I'm talking about here?
AEW, we talked about previously, were being sued by Kevin Kelly and the Tate twins, the boys from Dalton Castle and the Boys. Is no other way to say that. Dalton Castle's boys. Of Dalton Castle's boy fame.
Like the Raiders of Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Yeah, but not the original ones, the replacement one. No, well, these are the original boys, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying, but back to this. There were multiple issues, including defamation, the boys alleging they were defamed by Tony Khan, Kevin Kelly alleging he was being defamed by Ian Riccaboni, and then
some wrongful termination in there somewhere, or something like that. Wrongful termination,
but then the idea of this being a class action because wrestlers are being misclassified and wrestling personnel as independent contractors when they're actually employees, which is not a new issue.
And there's probably some meat on that bone because there is so much evidence to support that theory that wrestlers are misclassified.
So as part of a move to get this out of Philadelphia, because I'm assuming the last thing AEW wants is a Philadelphia judge, they're going to have it moved to federal court. AEW's Chris Harrington, who you may remember was the very first hire that Tony Khan made when he made the decision to do AEW, he asked Dave Meltzer, who should I hire? And Dave recommended Chris Harrington, who I believe was the founder of WrestleNomics.
Well, now, wait a minute. What is the business what did he hire him to do, and what is his background to do it? You're going to start a $100-and-something million company from scratch. That's how much it took him to get off the ground, I'm sure. And you're going to hire this guy to do what? Because he's done what with other companies this size that has qualified him to do that thing there?
No, he made really nice charts, just like Brandon Thurston makes of publicly available information. Here's the declaration. I, Chris Harrington, declare that I am of full age and that if called upon to testify under oath, I could and would testify competently to the following. 1. I currently serve in the position of Senior Vice President for Business Strategy for All Elite Wrestling, LLC.
Oh, well, there's his title. What is their business strategy?
I make this declaration based upon my knowledge of AEW's operations and my review of AEW's business records. Between September 1st, 2022 and the present, 290 individuals, and then it says here in parentheses, the putative class members provided services to AEW as wrestlers or as non-wrestling talent under independent contractor agreements. So between, let's say for 2 years there, September 2022 to now, 290 different individuals, at least, because this is only covering people who are not employees, right?
Right. That would be independent contractors. Employees are different. We know that certain of the roster, the EVPs are employees, and they, maybe who knows whether...
What's Jericho?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Jericho, is he an employee, or is it just, hey, have Daddy Shad guarantee my money, or it's for 10 years, I know I got it, whatever.
Yeah, who has health insurance from AEW or the Khan family?
That would part indicate who's employees and who's not.
Again, Kenny Omega too, you have to wonder. Well, anyway, 290 people, individuals, it says here. I'll move on. 3, the class members reside in diverse states. Based on AEW's records, only 10 of the putative class members, or 3.4%, have last known addresses within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So again, this goes back to moving it out of Pennsylvania.
Right.
Now, I believe Kevin Kelly
lives in Pennsylvania.
And Ian Riccaboni lives in Pennsylvania, and Tony Khan was in Pennsylvania when he made the comments about the Tates. I think that's what it was, right? Because it wasn't like they just picked Pennsylvania out of thin air. There was something.
Yes, but Kevin's residence has been for some time in Pennsylvania, so that would be one thing. And the Tate twins, I don't know about Tony Khan's whereabouts, but that's entirely feasible.
4, between September 1st, 2022 and the present, AEW paid the putative class members more than $60 million in the aggregate. Now that's a little bit of a main event. Let's stop for a second there.
Well, but here's the thing, more than $60 million in 2 years of 290-something people. We got the other documentation, but that was when they were trying to get a tax credit or a film credit for shooting somewhere. And they said that their talent was, $2 million that week. So maybe that was a big week. But I would think, it adds up. That may be low for 2 years. That's $30 million a year.
Well, again, that breaks down evenly if you did it that way to $30 million a year. But as we said before, does that include all the wrestlers? Does that include a Chris Jericho, a Young Bucks, Kenny Omega? I guess Cody was long gone before this period of time that we're talking about. But that's another question there. 5, if the putative class members were reclassified as employees, then AEW would incur tax liability of at least 9.95% of the pay rendered to class members, meaning more than $5.97 million in the aggregate. And before
right there, that's why that for so many years and with almost every company, I've said that guys were independent contractors with the territory days because nobody could afford paying that much. I'm not saying it would have been millions of dollars, but it would have been geared to the salaries that were paid out or the payoffs that were paid out. And it would add more, but there's no reason why the WWE or Tony Khan can't afford that money. But it was prohibitive for most everybody else in the business.
Well, one more number here. Number 6, if the putative class members were reclassified as employees, then AEW would incur costs in connection with employee benefits of approximately $18,125 annually per employee, meaning $5,256,250 per year in the aggregate. And then he declares under penalty of perjury that everything he's saying is to the best of his knowledge is true.
So yeah, that's a lot of money. But, $200,000 for the final countdown or, make your wrestlers employees every once in a while. I mean, we got to have priorities here. Yeah. Go with the final countdown.
And that's based on a number of 290 people. There's no reason it needs to be 290 people. Right? Well, we're just assuming that 290. I guess that's fair. That's ridiculous.
No, it's insane. But at the same time, that's not going to change because Tony loves the action figures. He wants to collect more of them. And that would be obviously the people that have come through the forbidden door and the people that have come in through the outdoor and the people that have made one shot or the people that have been regular or whatever. But again, more than 60 million. How much more? Are we doing? Well, it might be 68 million. Well, there's an extra $8 million. We don't know.
And again, does that count any of the multi-million-dollar contracts for people like the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, and who knows who else has a special deal, or any of the people that came in for a high-priced one-off? Does that count Sting? There's lots of questions we don't know, but at least 290 people, $60 million in 2 years. What was the budget? I don't even know if you would know this because it's not like Vince was talking, the budgets, but you've seen enough stuff in the years since. At the start of the Attitude Era, what was the budget for talent?
Oh, good Lord. Well, you go by the gross when you think about it. The WWE lost $5 million in 1995 or the fiscal year that ended at that point or whatever. That's a famous, happening in Vince's life when the only year he ever lost money until he got into restaurants and, all that other bullshit and casinos. But the grosses, I mean, I know for a fact, under oath, Crockett admitted that his 1986 gross was $21 million, and Vince at the time was probably doing 50 or 60, but that's the entire gross of the entire company all year. So the remuneration for the talent was a small percentage of that when you talk about the building rents because again, if he grossed 60 million, back in those days, did he make $5 or $6 million profit? So that's the thing. There's never been any kind of finances on a scale like this. Even WCW in the 90s with TBS, they famously lost $60 million in 1 year and said, oh, fuck. But I mean, before that, it was, oh, we lost $10 million a year, and it's a major corporation, and that was still bad. Nobody has ever been willing to spend as much money as Tony Khan has spent to get to the point where he could even start making some of it back. These numbers are just insane.
And he's going to have to spend more. The talent budgets are about to go much higher, not lower.
Well, if his football team's any indication, it is, as we heard from one of the football fans here on the program last week. Anyway, it's
so is it worth it? I mean, it's a lot of money, but we're talking about someone who has shown zero financial discipline. Is it worth it for a number of reasons, including making himself the biggest babyface ever, to do it? He can do it. What would WWE say if he did it? If he made everyone employees? I don't know how it would work, but if he did it, this lawsuit, a large part of it goes away. He looks great to the wrestling fans and the wrestlers. And all of a sudden, the wrestlers are talking about AEW like a utopia again.
Well, but the problem is that it would actually be showing some fiscal discipline to do that, to make the wrestlers employees instead of independent contractors, because it would be more disciplined than spending these ridiculous amounts of money for the rights fees for the music that the guys used to use on the indies, or all of the other exorbitant money that Tony spends for they burned a fucking house down. They transport a goddamn painted black bread truck from town to town across the country just for a 15-second shot of Jungle Jack off pulling up in it. He's spending a ridiculous amount of money to do everything. So what about take that money and take care of the fucking wrestlers? He's taking care of them, paying them more money than they'd ever make anywhere else, yes, but at the same time, he might even could get away with paying them less money if he said, I'll make you an employee. You and your family will have health care. If one of these idiots dives on you and breaks your fucking neck, I'll pay you less gross, but you'll get tax benefits and insurance and retirement plans.
See, that's one of those things, though. It's a great example. Both companies. You always hear, well, what if one of the stars gets seriously hurt? And the answer you hear is usually, well, they would take care of him in that case. They would pay for the medical in that case because he was a top star and he got hurt on their show. It's just an assumed thing. Why not make it official? You know what I mean? Like, everyone assumes it anyway. If someone badly gets hurt on a show, the promoter's going to have to take care of it. Make them employees. He has a back to school program. He's got wrestlers going back to school on his dime.
Not wrestling school, though.
No, to learn other trades. It's a smart idea.
Well, I'm all in favor of that for a lot of them.
It's a brilliant idea. But spend some money on this and you change everything.
But that's the thing is, okay, if he breaks his leg on our show, we'll pay for it. What about if he gets a brain tumor? He's still a big star. Is he on his own? No insurance, blah, blah, blah.
See, that's the thing. I believe Tony Khan would take care of the guy in that situation.
Well, maybe Tony would, but maybe some other people would. Why not make it official?
Yeah. WWE, I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not even trying to put them down. I don't know if they would, if they thought it would get bad publicity, they would. At least that was the way it was under Vince.
Well, you know how it was under Vince? When did you crawl out?
Right, like if you were doing this kind of case against WWE, Triple H a few years ago still had a talent contract, but he was technically an employee. He was working in the office. He had benefits. So he wouldn't have been in the putative class. That's why you have to wonder who in AEW, and we've heard some of those salaries, and those are ones that make a 60 jump to 75 pretty quick. You have to wonder what other salaries there are.
Well, but also years ago, remember I've told you the story, they made me an employee for like a month.
Yeah, you told me that, yeah.
Right, and just for the people, a quick gloss over. Since I was off television at that point in time and only working in the office on the creative team and the studio doing announcing, blah, 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 is, well, we'll make you an employee. And because they were paying for my insurance, they were reimbursing me for insurance and shit, right? So I was getting the benefits, but I was still an independent contractor because I was a performer. Now we'll just make you an employee. And then like 3 weeks later, we go out on a Raw and we had a technical issue or whatever, tape change. And they said, go out and do something with one of the baby faces. And we cut a promo and I ended up taking a bump and rolling out, whatever. And the next week in the office, I see Ed Kaufman from Legal. Oh, you at Raw, you took a bump. And I said, yeah. So, well, you're an employee. You can't do that now. I said, well, nobody told me that. Nobody told Vince that. And he's the one that told me to go out and do it. As if besides that, I didn't say I was never going to manage again or never going to work again or whatever. Just unmake me an employee. So they undid it and I went back to being an independent contractor. But now they've got, well, when they all went crazy with the stock sale and everyone becomes a billionaire, whether Shane or Triple H or Stephanie or all the employees of the company that were primarily employees are on the fucking television getting juice and hitting each other with sledgehammers. And it was like 2 years later. I don't know what the fuck. But anyhow, good luck to him is what I have to say.
All right, this is your show.